So I've been falling in love with Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Ancestors. It's a collection that is appended to the Mishnah, which was edited around 200 CE. And it's a bunch of statements. Sometimes they're about how to lead an ethical life. Sometimes they're about how to lead well and effectively. There's also some miscellaneous stuff that's put in here. But in chapter 2, in Mishnah 3, Rabbi Gamliel, who's the son of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, and what you have to know about him before hearing what he said is that he is from a dynasty of power. His ancestors were in charge throughout his career, and this happens expanded in the Talmud much later than the Mishnah. There were coups against their claim of leadership within the rabbinic world. Sometimes they were overthrown, only to be placed back into power. It turns out that they are resilient, adaptive. They're interesting leaders in a time of destruction because, after all, the Mishnah itself is written and codified in the aftermath of the destruction of the Jerusalem temple. So even though it's much more textured than this, even though it deserves much better treatment from a learning standpoint, the biblical period comes to a close. The priestly leadership comes to an abrupt end, although it's not so abrupt, when the rabbis who emerge from the Pharisees, and that's also not perfect but good enough for now, when they emerge as the new organizing leaders of the Jewish community. And so there's a very short section of Pirkei Avot, again, chapter 2, Mishnah 3, which reads in the Hebrew as following: Havu zehirim barashut she'ein makrivin lo le'adam ela letzorech atzman. Nir'in ke'ohavin b'sha'at hana'atan ve'enon omdim lo le'adam b'sha'at dachako. The translation before me says, be wary of those in power, for they befriend a person only for their benefit. They seem to be friends when it is to their advantage, but they do not stand by a person in their hour of need. And I'm struck because I just finished watching season 2 of House of Cards, that if everything you do as a person of authority, as a person with a role, if everything you do is about achieving and dispensing and not losing power, you will go to great lengths. And it won't be about the person in front of you, it'll be about what they can do for you. Because if they are of use to you, then you'll treat them well enough that they'll continue doing what you need. But as soon as you don't need them, you won't treat them well. And that's, of course, the plot of House of Cards and many other dramas that are put out there. But they're also the case when it comes to the real use of power in organizations. And synagogues, unfortunately, are not immune to this kind of power wielding. And so what I wanted to say was a quick response to Pirkei Avot's truth. It is true that in pursuit of power, someone doesn't necessarily hold on to ethics. But within an ethical sphere, hopefully shuls and other kinds of organizations are driven by missions that don't see people as chattel or tools or objects. If you are a leader of a group and you are driven as part of the group's mission to take care of one another, how do you see power? Do you see yourself as truly valued? Do you see the people before you as truly valued? It is too easy for professionals and volunteers to see each other as competition, as there's a scarcity of power mentality. And if I give up some of my power, someone will hurt me. So it's not just a scarcity of power, it's a scarcity of trust. And Rabbi Gamliel is trying to establish a dynasty, trying to cement a dynasty that is creating order out of chaos. And so I ask you, if you're a leader, or if you aspire to leadership, how do you see the people who are there to help you? Do you see them as in the way of your ascent? Do you see them as crucial to your ascent? Or do you see them as valuable others who have their own life's trajectories? And therefore your leadership is not about getting them to do what you need. It's about you wanting to be near them as you do what you're called to do yourself.